November 2017, Thailand. A man in a suit with a slick forehead and a salesman's grin jumps on stage. He claps. He sings. But what looks like a weird motivational seminar was actually the face of a $2.4 billion global scam. Behind the spotlight, a missing woman in Australia, a fake suicide in India, and a vanished crypto founder nobody ever arrested. This is the surreal story of BitConnect, a scam so bizarre it became a meme.
My wife still doesn't believe in me!
But the joke was on everyone else. His name was Carlos Matos. His over-the-top energy made him an internet legend. But behind the meme, something far darker. Because this wasn't just another crypto flop. This was BitConnect, a Ponzi scheme so bizarre, so theatrical, and so destructive. Even seasoned scammers might have said, damn. But let's rewind. Before the vanishing acts, before the FBI got involved, it all began with a single idea, born in India. In the middle of an economic shock so brutal, it shook the entire country. It was 2016. India's prime minister had just wiped out the nation's 500 and 1,000 rupee notes. Overnight, gone, just like that. The goal? Kill black money. Untraceable cash, hoarded by corrupt officials and shadowy businessmen. The result? Chaos. People weren't lining up at banks, they were hiding their cash. And that's when Bitcoin suddenly looked like a lifeline. Anonymous, borderless, booming. No ID, no banks, just numbers. And right in the center of that financial storm, a man named Satish Kumbhani had a light bulb moment. Here's what he offered. Deposit your Bitcoin into his new platform, and a high-speed trading bot would make crypto trades for you. In return, up to 40% monthly profits. Yes, 40. Per month on autopilot. Too good to be true? Of course. But early on, it didn't feel that way. Returns were flowing. Crypto wallets were growing like magic. And you didn't even have to trade. The bot, allegedly, did it all for you. Just lend them your Bitcoin, convert it into BCC, BitConnect's own token, and watch the numbers climb. Every day. Effortless. And if you wanted more, bring your friends. BitConnect had one of the most aggressive referral systems ever. The more people you recruited, the higher you climbed, and the bigger your cut from their deposits. It was a pyramid inside a Ponzi, wrapped in crypto jargon, but nobody cared. Why would they? The BCC token was skyrocketing. It even hit the top 20 cryptocurrencies by market cap. People were turning $1,000 into $10,000, seemingly overnight. YouTubers flaunted gains. Influencers rented Lambos. Some claimed to live off passive income alone. And the skeptics? They just didn't get it, or so everyone thought. But behind the scenes, there was no bot, no algorithm, no real trades, just a classic Ponzi. New money paying off old investors while the founders stashed the profits in private wallets. Still, it could have ended like most crypto scams, a quiet rug pull, if it weren't for what happened next. People began to vanish. Some went silent. One promoter's wife disappeared without a trace. In India, one furious investor decided to take matters into his own hands with a gun. But we'll get to that. For now, stay in the golden days, when BitConnect was still booming and red flags were still whispers. Because amid the flashing lights and hype, something else was spreading even faster than money. Belief. Belief that this was it. The way regular people could beat the system. And that belief, that's what made the fall so devastating. BitConnect didn't just grow, it exploded. By mid-2017, it had transformed from a strange crypto curiosity into a full-blown global phenomenon. Countries like Nigeria, Egypt, and Australia lit up on the BitConnect map, each spawning its own army of promoters, recruiters, and desperate believers. The events got bigger, louder, more surreal. Smoke machines, Star Wars music.
It's a very, very big, crazy moment!
Dollar bills falling from the ceiling like rain. At one conference, grown adults clawed at the air, scrambling for cash like kids in a candy storm. And center stage, howling, pointing, bouncing like a preacher on Red Bull, was Carlos Matos. His now iconic BitConnect didn't just go viral, It became digital folklore, a meme, yes, but more than that, a symbol of how insane, cult-like, and blindly euphoric this all became. Because BitConnect wasn't a fintech company anymore. It was a religion, and its gospel? Infinite returns, zero effort, no risk. But even while crowds were cheering, the cracks were already starting to show. In November 2017, a tiny red flag popped up. A UK business registry questioned BitConnect's legal status. A small thing, easy to ignore. But within days, the snowball started rolling. Texas and North Carolina hit them with cease and desist orders. Crypto experts blasted them as obvious frauds. Even Ethereum's creator, Vitalik Buterin, publicly called it out. But to loyal BitConnect followers, none of that mattered. When you're making money, you don't ask questions. You defend the machine. Call the critics jealous, bitter, haters. You double down. That's exactly what thousands of people did. Even as the token price started spiking erratically, even as the so-called trading bot, the entire foundation of the system, had never been seen. No code, no interface, no proof, just slick animations and vague promises on a website full of typos and sketchy countdown timers. But hey, the profits were real, right? Behind the curtain, though, something darker was brewing. In Australia, a man named John Bigaton had risen to the top of BitConnect's food chain. He was charming, polished, trustworthy. The perfect promoter. He had the whole image: wife, kids, suburban life, big smile. He wasn't just selling BitConnect, he was the product. And people bought in. Like Steve and Danny, two investors who gave him $130,000 after he promised it could turn into $8 million in a year. But when BitConnect started wobbling, John vanished. No texts, no calls, just silence. And then came something worse. March 25th, 2018. John's wife, Madeline, packed a bag, dropped off their daughter at a friend's house, texted John to feed the dog, and vanished. Her car was found on the edge of a cliff, keys on the ground, her wedding ring left on the seat. Police suspected suicide, but one thing didn't fit. There was no body. And Madeline, she was a devout Catholic, a two-time cancer survivor, not someone who gave up. Her family didn't buy it. The investors didn't buy it. And John's behavior after the disappearance? Weird. Days later, he posted a smiling family photo from a massive lunch. His daughters looked distant. His smile? Off, like someone pretending nothing had happened. Was it grief or guilt? Rumors exploded. Some claimed Madeline fled with stolen crypto. Others believed she was silenced. By John, or by someone higher up in the BitConnect food chain. No one knew for sure, but something was off. And as police clung to the missing person label, the BitConnect empire began collapsing like a house of cards. The token nosedived, the platform shut down, and those daily guaranteed profits? Gone. But if you think this is where the story ends, think again. Because halfway around the world, in India, things were about to turn full Tarantino. When BitConnect collapsed in early 2018, most people panicked. Some cried. Others clung to denial. But one man in Gujarat, India? He chose something else entirely. Vengeance. His name was Shailesh Bhatt, a real estate promoter who'd sunk nearly $300,000 into BitConnect. And when the platform vanished with his money, he didn't call a lawyer. He rounded up 9 friends, got himself a gun, and made a list. The mission was simple. Find the people behind BitConnect and take the money back. By force. First up was Piyush Savalia, a BitConnect office worker. Bhatt and his crew lured him to a fake meeting, posing as tax officials, then shoved him into a car and interrogated him until he coughed up a name. Deval Mavani, allegedly one of BitConnect's co-founders. So they went after him next. Held at gunpoint, Mavani transferred over 2,200 bitcoins and 11,000 litecoins, worth about $19 million, straight into Bhatt's wallet. Just like that, the scammer got scammed, and the victim became the vigilante. But the story didn't end there. Karma was coming, and this time it wore a uniform. Weeks later, Bhatt was kidnapped himself. Not by criminals, by cops. 10 officers in a police car surrounded him, beat him, and demanded 200 bitcoins for his release. Why? Because one of Bhatt's own crew got greedy, felt shortchanged, and told his politically connected uncle, who then allegedly sent dirty cops to settle the score. Let that sink in. A man scammed by BitConnect, who then kidnapped a scammer, was kidnapped himself by the police. That's the kind of madness we're dealing with. And it got even messier. That influential uncle? He was a member of India's ruling BJP party. The same party led by Prime Minister Narendra Modi, whose sudden demonetization policy had created the chaos that helped crypto and BitConnect boom in the first place. And where was BitConnect born? Gujarat. Same region, same circles. Too many coincidences. Once journalists and opposition figures started connecting dots, the shadows got darker. That uncle, Milankatadia, vanished after a warrant was issued, gone. And soon came the accusation that rocked Indian politics, that high-ranking BJP leaders may have been behind BitConnect from the start. There was no hard proof, just rumors, intimidation, and silence. But the damage was done. Investigators began to suspect that Satish Kumbhani, the official founder of BitConnect, was never the real boss, just a puppet, a front, a name to absorb the fallout while the true architects slipped away, untouched. And Satish? He pulled a vanishing act of his own. After a US indictment, he disappeared completely. Meanwhile, while Western regulators struggled to build a case, Indian investigators started seeing a pattern. Missing promoters, erased records, silent victims. Some stayed quiet out of shame, others out of fear. Because in a system where even the police could be bought, what chance did anyone have? Back in Australia, John Bigaton's world was crumbling. Lawsuits piled up. His reputation burned. But he never said a word, never confessed, never explained. His wife? Still missing. His friends turned victims now called him a monster. And in the US, things weren't much better. Crypto influencers like Craig Grant and Trevon James, who had made millions pushing BitConnect to millions of viewers, played the victim card, claimed they were hacked, that all their Bitcoin vanished overnight. Craig fled to Jamaica. Trevon kept uploading crypto videos like nothing happened. Some people even joked that BitConnect didn't destroy their lives. It kick-started their careers. Because this wasn't just a scam, it was a circus. A worldwide spectacle powered by hype, greed, and blind faith. The deeper you dig, the weirder it gets. Bollywood-style conferences, revenge kidnappings, political cover-ups. It reads like a Netflix thriller with no resolution. But the most haunting question still hangs in the air. Who really built BitConnect? And why did none of the major players ever face justice? The collapse of BitConnect wasn't just financial. It was deeply personal. It shattered families, wiped out life savings, and left behind something even more dangerous than fraud: silence. When BitConnect vanished in early 2018, there was no global outcry, no mass arrests, just quiet, a suffocating, eerie quiet. Victims vanished from the internet. Promoters scrubbed their identities, deleting YouTube channels, wiping Telegram groups, rebranding under new names. But the internet doesn't forget. And for those who lost everything, forgetting wasn't even an option. There's a unique cruelty in being scammed by someone who looked you in the eye, danced on stage, called you family. It's one thing to lose money in a bad trade. It's another to be drained by a cult-like system, while the people who recruited you drove Teslas and posted gym selfies like nothing happened. Take Carlos Matos, the meme, the man, the screaming face of BitConnect. After the collapse, he disappeared, only to re-emerge years later, posting fitness advice and intermittent fasting tips on YouTube. When asked about BitConnect, he casually admitted he'd pulled out his initial investment before the collapse. The profits were gone, sure, but the principal? Safe.
Of course, when I saw that it grew up by double, what it was, I took my initial investment, so I didn't lose in BitConnect, but I left that profit and it grew like crazy.
The man who became a global punchline didn't just survive, he walked away unscathed. That hit a nerve. Because it wasn't just money that vanished, it was trust. Trust in crypto, trust in influencers, trust in the dream that wealth could be simple, clean, fast. And then there was Glenn Arcaro, the top US promoter, one of the very few who actually faced consequences. He pled guilty, handed over $24 million in crypto, and served 38 months in federal prison. Not exactly poetic justice, but more than most got. Craig Grant, for instance, claimed he was SIM swapped, that all his crypto was gone, told his followers he now delivered pizzas for a living, then posted videos of himself living large in Jamaica. Investigators couldn't find him, but Twitter could. He's still there, showing off palm trees and beach views that don't exactly scream rock bottom. Even weirder? His girlfriend, who told federal agents she had no idea where he was, kept showing up in his videos, happy, relaxed, as if millions hadn't been siphoned from strangers just a few years earlier, as if it could all just vanish. And that's the part that burns. So many of these people are still out there, still online, still posting. Trayvon James, who once live-streamed a teary-eyed breakdown after BitConnect imploded, now uploads crypto content like it never happened. He's even promoted new scams since. It's like watching an arsonist walk away from a burning house and land a sponsorship deal for fireproof gloves. But this was never just about crypto. It was about how easily people are manipulated when hope becomes a product. BitConnect didn't sell a coin, it sold certainty. The idea that your life could change overnight, that someone else had solved the game and all you had to do was follow. And when that illusion cracked, the shame was so deep, most victims didn't report it. They stayed quiet, embarrassed. Some didn't want their families to know. Others feared retaliation, because BitConnect had already proven it wasn't just digital. It had ties to real-world violence, political power, and dark corners you don't want to look into. And through it all, one person remained missing: Satish Kumbhani, the official founder, the man indicted by the US government. His last known location? India. After that, nothing. No flight records, no digital trail, just a name, and a trail of broken lives. And if you're asking, how is it possible no one's found him? You're not alone. Because maybe he's not running. Maybe he was never really the one in charge. Maybe he was just a placeholder, a fall guy in a performance directed by people we'll never see. Which leaves us with one question echoing through the silence. If the founder disappeared and the promoters walked away untouched, then who was BitConnect really for? BitConnect was supposed to be the future, a revolution, a gateway, a path out of financial struggle. But in the end, it became a graveyard. Not just for money, but for trust, identity, even lives. The same investors who once posted screenshots of skyrocketing returns vanished from forums, deleted their profiles, erased every trace. Families torn apart by financial ruin stopped speaking. And some victims? They'll never speak again. Because for a few, the collapse wasn't just economic, it was existential. Their belief system didn't just break, it imploded. Not just their faith in crypto, but in themselves, their judgment, their instincts, their dreams. That's the part no one talks about. The pain BitConnect caused wasn't loud, it was quiet, personal, lingering, like rot that spreads in silence. By the time regulators stepped in, the wreckage was already complete. The SEC clawed back $57 million, a laughable drop in a $2.4 billion ocean. Glenn Arcaro got a prison sentence, sure, but most of the other players walked. YouTubers who helped pump the scheme to millions of viewers faced zero jail time. Some vanished, others rebranded. One even launched a course on how to get rich on YouTube. It writes its own punchline. Meanwhile, John Bigaton, the Australian promoter whose wife Madeline vanished under chilling circumstances, still hasn't faced trial. And Madeline, still gone. No body, no suicide note, no trace, just theories. Maybe she ended her own life. Maybe she ran off with stolen crypto. Or maybe, just maybe, someone made her disappear. In India, investigations continue, but Satish Kumbhani, still a ghost. Some believe he's hiding. Others think he was silenced. But the unspoken truth is darker. Maybe no one's even looking. Because if BitConnect really was protected, even partially, by people in power, then pulling that thread could unravel something far bigger than a Ponzi scheme. And that's where the story ends. Not with answers, but with questions. How did so many people fall for something so blatantly fake? Why did the architects of it all walk away untouched? And more terrifying still, how many BitConnects are out there right now, hiding behind buzzwords, behind influencers, behind trust? Because BitConnect didn't collapse because people got wiser. It collapsed because it flew too close to the sun, too big, too fast, too visible. Had it stayed smaller, quieter, more careful, it might still be running today. That's the world we live in, a world where belief is a currency, and the more desperate people become, the more profitable their hope is. BitConnect didn't just sell crypto, it sold certainty. And when the fantasy broke, the believers were left in ruins, and the creators were already gone.
So guys, let me tell you, I love